time for this insightful wealth management program because informed decisions lead to lasting wealth.
That's right, informed decisions lead to lasting wealth. That's what this show is all about. Welcome again this week to Wealth Management and You. My name is Chico. Joining me on the show, as usual, is Raphael Emenyonu. Good evening, Raphael.
Good evening, Chico.
An extra happy Raphael, I might add.
I'm flying.
He says he's happy all the time, but I guess he's extra happy. But we won't ask him why. Just Raphael and I on the show today, and our topic is the philosophy of financial planning. And in the course of the show, we'll be having a look at what financial planning actually is and looking at what the process is. And we'll then look at some of the pros and cons. What are the advantages of financial planning? What are the disadvantages? Is it a case of, where they say, he who fails to plan, plans to fail?
Yeah.
That's the long and short?
Yeah, that's it.
Interesting.
That's it.
Okay, now as usual, remember if you have any questions at all about today's topic, which is the philosophy of financial planning, don't hesitate to send those questions in to us in the course of the show via WhatsApp on 0704 1001 973. The number again is 0704 1001 973. Okay, Raphael, let's starting at the very beginning. What is financial planning? And at what stage really should one start? I mean, I heard a lady the other day, she was complaining bitterly about her son, who's I think her son is about 31 or 32, and he still lives at home. They have a big house and everything. So he still lives at home. Parents pretty comfortable and everything. So he's never had to. Her complaint was that this guy's never had to pay rent. He works. He's got a good job. He's never had to pay rent. Never had to. Really, bro. You're not paying any bills. You're not doing anything. And at 32, your career is well underway, and all of that. And at some stage, you're not going to be there forever.
Absolutely.
At some stage, you're going to be confronted with then having to perhaps make some sort of budget and start to. Is that what financial planning is? And at what stage should you start, really?
Okay, so to your first question, which is the definition of financial planning, just as the name implies, it's the proper management of your finances. It's a component of wealth management that focuses on specific goals, while wealth management in itself focuses on the entire journey, of building wealth, preserving wealth, transferring wealth to the next generation, managing your taxes efficiently, ensuring that your investments are also well managed. Other areas of your financial well-being are all included in wealth management. But financial planning in itself is a component of that which focuses on specific goals. So how do you ensure that you set those goals and you meet those goals? Going back to the young man, that you spoke about. Now, at that stage of his career, in financial planning, is defined as the wealth accumulation stage. He needs to take the advantage of staying in his parents' house, at that age, usually between 25 to maybe 35 or thereabout. He needs to take that advantage to build a nest. Not that the extra income he's making is using that to go clubbing and partying and all of those stuff. He needs to,
which is what young people do.
So he needs to take advantage of that savings, that opportunity has brought, and begin to build that wealth, at that stage. And it's interesting to let people know today that financial planning, or the act of financial planning, should begin from the age at which a young child understands addition and subtraction in mathematics. As early as the age of 4, when the child begins to put together 1+1, 2 minus 1. You need to begin to let the child understand what money is and how money works. So it's even way younger than the young man that you mentioned.
Yes.
Because it's important that the more, the earlier that knowledge is imbibed in people, the better understanding they have, of how to make money work for them.
Yes.
Interestingly. So that's really how it is.
Wow.
Looking at the processes, or the steps involved in financial planning. The first thing is you need to be able to set that goal. You need to be clear on what that goal is. What am I trying to achieve? So it's not enough to say I have to put some money away, and you just put that money away in a savings account. Or you see Chico buying stocks of First Bank, and you say, because Chico is buying the stocks of First Bank, I want to put money away and I want to buy the stocks of First Bank. Because those different asset classes are also defined, for different goals, different tenor of goals.
Yes.
So it could be short term, it could be medium term, it could be long term. The different asset classes that we have today, all over the world, are designed for the different tenors of goals. So you also need to be clear on that. But I think the first thing that is important as well is you need to be able to set those goals, and you need to be clear on those goals. And the best way to set those goals is to align it with a SMART acronym. Now, what's the SMART acronym? It says it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be
specific, measurable, achievable,
relevant, and time bound. Right? Relevant or realistic and time bound.
Hang on, I need to write this down. Give me a minute.
So you need to align the goal in that direction. So
it's SMART, and S is
specific, M is measurable,
measurable,
A is achievable,
A is achievable,
R is relevant,
R is relevant,
and
yes.
T is time bound.
T is time bound. Interesting. Okay, got it.
So if I say to you now that the goal that I'm planning for, right, is to get my child to school maybe to have his master's in Harvard, right?
Yes.
In the next 5 years, right? So that's time bound, right? And I'm specific. The goal is to have the guy to have his master's in the next 5 years in Harvard, right? Start his master's in the next 5 years in Harvard. Now, how is it measurable? I need to ensure that maybe every month or every 2 months, I'm getting closer to that goal in terms of putting aside the funds, that is required. So maybe the total amount is $1 million. Maybe the total amount is, for the sake of this conversation, maybe the total amount is maybe about $20,000, right? So every month, my savings should be getting closer to the $20,000.
Yes.
So that makes it measurable. Now, is it relevant?
In other words, you'll know when you're going to hit the mark.
Exactly, because there's a time to it, so that it's clear, Is it relevant? Yes, it is, maybe because I want him to work somewhere abroad, right? And that is one of the key criteria, right? So you need to just align it with that and ensure that the goal is clear and you understand what that goal is. The next step is then to understand your financial status. Now, the way companies have financial statements, you need to also ensure that you see yourself as an entity and you understand your financial status. So you need to have a personal balance sheet for yourself, where you look at your assets against your liabilities, right? And the difference between the two is your net worth at the time that you're planning for this goal, right? So that sort of helps you to also manage your expenses. So at every point in time, you need to ensure that you're building assets and you're reducing your liabilities. Your liabilities are majorly your debt. Loans that you're owing, maybe mortgage, maybe car loan.
Recurrent expenditure.
Yes, those are majorly what your liabilities are. But your assets could be, if you have a house, the worth of that house. If you have a job, your income, your salary. If you have investment in stocks, what are they worth? If you have investments in fixed deposits, what's the capital, what's the interest? So those are your assets, right? There was a time I was giving a talk and someone asked if his car that he uses for Uber is an asset. But my simple answer to him was that anything that brings money to you is an asset. Whatever takes money away from you is a liability.
So his car is an asset and a liability.
Yeah, because it says the driver is giving him a whole lot of headache. He spends money fixing it here and there. So when you interact with people, you get different perspectives, to these things, and it makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
So you need to look at that, and this is also where your budgeting tool comes to play. We discussed this, I think, episode 7 when we're talking about emergency fund. Your budgeting tool also comes to play because it then helps you understand where you spend every kobo. It helps you understand where money is going to that it shouldn't be going to, and this sort of helps you to identify the surplus that you can actually set aside, towards that goal that you want to achieve.
I'm going to say something that I have said before. So I kind of suspect that I know what you're going to say, but I'll say it anyway. Yeah, because does this apply? Look, the majority of people do not have disposable income. Okay? They are caught up in some kind of hand-to-mouth cycle where it's just barely enough what's coming in, and the harsh realities of the times we live in, exacerbates that situation. So if you were already in that sort of zone, then recent events with the hike in petrol price and then the transportation prices and every other thing has hit that person even harder now, and so what are you going to do under those? How these things almost sound like they cannot apply under those circumstances, because you have to have it seems like it's something where we're saying, just for the sake of this conversation, someone is earning, shall we say, 500,000 naira a month, which on the face of it is a decent salary. Let's say it's a man who has a wife and one child. Okay, now they live in a pretty decent area. Rent is spiking, food prices, everything's spiking. 500,000 comes in every month. And then on the one hand, we look at his bills, look at the feeding in the house, look at it. I mean, this person is on a long thing. He can't. He's probably look. If that person is listening, all this thing will just sound academic to them, because in reality, the practical reality for that person is that they just cannot even begin to think about. They want to survive first, because it's he who is alive who's going to start to try to do the smart and the being specific or measurable or achievable or relevant on timeline. Do you understand? I don't know why you're laughing. And if we double that salary and make it 1 million naira now, then perhaps you might get into the zone a little bit where, let's say you make 1 million naira a month, 12 gross, and you live somewhere that you're paying, shall we say, 4 million naira rent. So really, you really should be able to put aside that rent from your salary in a year. Okay, and then still perhaps be able to have something you know,
A little to spend.
a little something, yeah, that you can then
Keep it
say
going.
to yourself, right, no entertainment, no leisure, no, we're not going on holiday somewhere, whatever, because I have this target, and you're putting that money aside towards that target. But anybody underneath that threshold is going to be listening to the show and wondering, and say, okay, well, this is not for me. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah. So, I before I agree, right? Before I agree, right?
Yes.
I'll say a couple of things.
Okay.
Right. And these are also reality, you know, that I've experienced, you know,
Yes.
in engaging people. First of all, like I said to you the other day, I think it's a mindset thing. Money will never be enough, you know, and
Yeah.
those challenges will always be there. Now it's up to you and how disciplined you want to be. Now, if you apply the budgeting tool, what you're going to find out is that money are going to some places. This same fellow that earns 500,
500, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
is the same fellow that you would find at the bar almost every evening. He will tell you he stays on the mainland and there's traffic on third mainland. So after work, he can't go home straight. He needs to at least take a bottle or two. Right?
Yeah.
That's that same fellow on 500.
Yeah.
Now, if that fellow begins to itemize how he spends the money, right, he'll be able to pick out one or two items, which ideally he shouldn't be spending money on regularly, right? The other one is there's a MD of a bank
Yeah.
and the ED of a well-established oil and gas as well. That recently we had a conversation, and they said to me that they usually take the family out, right, twice a month, right, on Sundays,
Yeah.
you know, for lunch, right, or brunch or whatever it is. Now they've cut that down to once a month. Now these are guys that if you see on the road, you would say, you know, he's
They're
not
comfortable.
he's not affected by whatever is going on, but because he has goals, because he has something he wants to achieve, and he has seen that the cost of things are rising,
Yes.
right? And he needs to cut down on certain things that he doesn't think he should be doing regularly. And that's one of the things that they've decided to take out of their list. You know, so it's just about looking at everything. And between you and I, there's a 10,000, there's a 20,000 that we can account for every month. You know, we just don't know where it is, right? But if we begin to itemize those things, we will be able to
Start
detect,
identifying it.
yeah, where exactly this small amount of money has gone to. And that's really what we can begin to put aside, you know, to build the wealth, you know.
All right.
It's tough, but again, it's something that, you know, you have to be disciplined and you have to practice. You know, so that's the second stage. The third stage is to then break down your goals, right? Now, the goals that you've identified at number one are goals that, if you look at all of them, they're probably about 5 or 10, you know, that you want to achieve at the same time. But because you have a very thin cash flow,
Yes.
then you have to, first of all, prioritize. And then secondly, you have to then break down those goals into short term, medium term, and long term. Short term are goals that you want to achieve between 1 to 2 years, right? Anything between that period. is
That's
a
what's short
goal,
term. 1 to 2 years. Interesting.
right? Because why is
I've
defined
always
that
seen
way?
short term as immediate.
Well, in our own world,
Yes.
it's you know,
No,
it could
teach
be
me,
1
yeah.
year, but at least between 0 to 2 years. And the reason is because that capital is important to you, right? And then you have to then look for asset classes that naturally will preserve your capital and pay you a decent income, right? To be able to achieve that short-term goal.
Yeah.
Because the capital, first of all, is important to you. You don't want to gamble with it. And then what you're then looking for is a decent income on that capital. So likes of fixed deposit in banks, treasury bills, money market fund with investment houses. Those are those sort of instruments that preserves that capital and then pay you a decent income.
So what if someone, I mean, we've been speaking specific to someone who has some sort of regular income.
Yeah.
What if someone who's just come into an inheritance or won the lottery or something, someone who's just come into money so suddenly?
Yeah, so for those kind of people,
What applies here?
for those kind of people, they have a lump sum,
Yes.
right? So for them, they can then decide on, how they want to achieve multiple goals. So what they then need to do, they're mostly within the space of the wealth management. They will be talking about specific goals right now. They will be talking about multiple goals, and then you need to then set up a proper portfolio for those guys to then achieve all that they've highlighted for themselves.
Yes.
But this will then require different asset classes. So it will be a mix of short term, medium term, and long term in a basket.
In a basket.
And then you're able to then address all of those goals as they come along.
Yes.
The financial life cycle.
I understand that.
Right. So medium term is then 2 to 7 years, 2 to 10 years, right? And then long term is about 10 years.
Okay.
So for medium term, you have instruments that are suitable for that period as well. The likes of bonds. It could be federal government bonds. It could be corporate bonds. It could be state government bonds. And it could be mutual funds that are invested in multiple bonds as well.
Okay.
To be able to address that. And then on the long term side, you have stocks. You have mutual funds that invest in stocks, and you have real estate. To be able to address your long term goals, which are usually over 10 years.
Okay.
So you need to understand those different investment instruments, and you need to also understand what is called your risk profile. Whether you're a low risk individual, you're a high risk individual, or you're a conservative person.
So what does understanding that do?
So if, for instance, I'm somebody that I can't watch my money go
You're
up and
risk
down.
averse.
Yeah, I'm risk averse. I can't watch my money go up and down, in stocks. I rather want to stick with those short-term instruments that preserve capital.
Okay.
That also puts me in that bucket of those that have short-term goals, because that is what that's what my risk profile fits. But if I'm someone with a high risk, then I can look at those aggressive instruments like stocks, or more of those long-term instruments like real estate. Because again, risk here is not necessarily when you lose money; it's because you're not in control of your money.
Yeah.
And because you're not in control of it, anything can happen. So you need to demand more premium. That's essentially how it's defined. So the fourth step is then for you to implement. Once you identify the right instrument, you're clear on your goals, you've broken down your goals, then you need to take the investment decision immediately and then implement. So one of the things that you need to be watchful, you need to watch around this particular step is that you don't procrastinate, because the moment you procrastinate, you'll be paying more. So imagine you want to do something in December, and what you can set aside conveniently is 5,000 naira a month.
Yeah.
So that means that you have, say, about 10 months to go, right?
Yes.
And then that takes you to about 50K. So what you want to do in December is 50,000 naira worth, right? So if you do 5,000 every month, it's convenient for you to achieve it. But once you push that forward, and you say you want to start in June, you've lost some months, right? And then you're going to double the amount
you have to then set aside.
So procrastination is one of the things that you shouldn't do. Once you've taken that decision, you understand, you've identified the product, you've identified where your goal sits, you take that decision immediately. Try to enjoy the power of compounding, which was also defined in one of the shows. It's for you to enjoy interest on interest. So you have to be a bit patient with the investment decisions you're making, and also learn to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your investment as well. And finally, you need to review whatever you're doing. Don't just sit back, go to sleep and say you've put your money there. You need to review, because other opportunities might come up. And those opportunities, might be better than where you're currently invested in, right? So you need to divest and make more value on your ad income. For your short-term goals, you need to review that every 3 months. For your long-term goals, you need to review those annually, just to ensure that if circumstances have changed, maybe
You're still
gotten a better job, you're married now with children, you need to be able to review those things to ensure that it continues to fit for purpose. And if you also want to take your religion seriously at some point, we've talked about faith-based investments as well, which is something that you might want to consider at that point as well. So those are the stages of financial planning. Those are the 5 key stages, that you need to walk through, when you're planning for specific goals.
Right. Well, we do hope that you're paying close attention. If you have any questions, we still have a few minutes before the end of today's show. You can send those questions to us via WhatsApp. The number to send them to is 0704 1001 973. The number again, 0704 1001 973. Chimezia says, greetings, Mr. Chigo and the guest. You used 500k salary analogy and how one can be disciplined to save for the income. No, you answered this question. Asked and answered. I hope that you were listening, Chimezia, because Rafa has answered that question already. Okay, so if you you're saying to the person who's a low income earner, although I don't know whether 500k a month should be described as low income, but such people should sort of examine themselves to see, or do their budget thing to see where their money is actually going.
Yep.
Because it's certainly not growing wings and flying away.
Yep. So there's certain things that they should be able to at least stay away from, in the time being.
So
and the advantages of this really is that it helps you to maintain your standard of living because you're planning, for everything. It gives you peace of mind. And then your money is working efficiently because you're investing in the right product that is designed for the right tenor of your goal.
Yes.
The disadvantage could be that it could be expensive because if you're unable to do this yourself, you might be looking for a financial advisor or wealth advisor to help you look into this. And it might be time consuming, because you're not just going to put all your money in a savings account because you have to identify the right asset classes to be able to put your funds into,
All right. Thank you very, very much. Our topic on today's edition of Wealth Management and You, which I think Raphael has done serious justice, is the philosophy of financial planning. In case you just joined us, we've had a look at what financial planning actually is. We went on to look at the process, and Raphael broke that down for us, the 5 different stages that are involved.
That's right.
And we've just been talking about the advantages and the disadvantages of financial planning. Not that we've spoken, are there disadvantages?
Yeah. So I mentioned it. I said the 2 critically that I can think of, it could be expensive.
Yeah.
Because you might need the service of a wealth advisor or financial advisor if it's something you can't put together. And it could be time consuming, because again, you need to be able to identify the right asset classes that meet, those objectives or those goals that you sort of set up for yourself.
Right. Well, that's our show today. If you're on your wealth journey, we wish you the very best. And there's no better place for you to get expert financial advice to help you make the right decisions, plan and grow your wealth than this show. It comes your way at 5:30 every Monday on Classic FM 97.3, Wealth Management and You, with Raphael Emmanuel. Raphael, thank you very much for coming through again today.
Thank you, Chico, for having me.
We look forward to you joining us at 5:30 next week, and we'll let you know our topic in the week. You can follow us on social media. We do put out a few tips. Do you want to give the details?
Yeah, if you've missed any of the episodes, the videos are on my YouTube channel at Raphael Emmanuel. So you can catch up with the videos over there, and we'd like you to subscribe and share your comments as well.
Stick around, TDS rolls on.
Thank you for joining us on today's edition of Wealth Management and You. We hope the insights shared today help you take confident steps towards building and sustaining long-term financial success.